Some nights feel heavier than others, like the air itself is watching you breathe. This is not just another horror story. This is a real life-based horror story. The kind that doesn't stay inside books. The kind that follows you home, sits quietly in the dark corners of your room, and waits. What you're about to hear is based on events that were reported as real, witnessed by real people, in a place that still exists today. And the most disturbing part? Nobody has been able to explain what truly happened there. It started in a small, quiet neighborhood where nothing unusual ever happened. The streets were normal, the people were normal, and life moved slowly and peacefully. But sometimes, real-life horror doesn't announce itself with loud noises or sudden chaos. Sometimes it starts with something small, like a sound you can't explain, a shadow that moves when nothing else does, or a feeling that someone is standing right behind you, even when you are completely alone. Our main character never believed in paranormal stories. Ghost stories, haunted places, supernatural events, all of it sounded fake. Just stories made to scare people. Until one night changed everything. One night that turned a normal life into a living nightmare. It began after moving into a new house, an old house, with a history nobody talked about. At first, everything felt normal. But slowly, strange things started happening. Doors opening by themselves, footsteps in empty rooms, lights turning on and off without reason. And then came the dreams. Not normal dreams, the same dream every night. A dark hallway, a locked door, and someone, or something, standing at the end of it, watching, waiting. At first, it was easy to ignore. Stress, imagination, maybe just adjusting to a new place. But when those same things started happening in real life, the same sounds, the same hallway feeling, the same presence, it became impossible to deny. Friends stopped visiting, neighbors avoided eye contact, and one elderly man from the area said something that still doesn't make sense today. He said, "That house was never empty." And what happened the night our main character decided to check the locked room upstairs is something that still hasn't been fully explained. Because that was the night they realized they weren't the only one living in that house. The decision to check the locked room upstairs didn't happen suddenly. It was building for weeks, maybe even from the first night in the house. At first, it was just discomfort, the kind you ignore, the kind you laugh off. But real-life horror stories rarely begin with something obvious. They begin quietly, slowly, until ignoring them becomes impossible. The house itself was older than most buildings in the area. Built decades ago, it had changed owners many times. No one ever stayed long. The property dealer had explained it away easily. Old construction, maintenance issues, nothing serious, and honestly, the price was too good to question much. Looking back, that might have been the first mistake. There were small details that didn't make sense. One extra lock on the upstairs hallway door. Not a normal lock, an old metal one, like something added later. The previous owner had left most furniture behind, but that door was the only thing specifically mentioned. That room is storage, no need to open it. At the time, it sounded normal. Now, it felt like a warning. Neighbors were polite, but distant. Conversations ended quickly when the house was mentioned. One woman across the street once asked casually, "You sleep well there?" When the answer was yes, she just nodded slowly, like she didn't believe it. That was before the dream started. Every night, the same scene. Walking down a long dark hallway that didn't exactly match the house, but felt connected to it. The air heavy, the silence too loud, and at the end, that closed door. Sometimes it felt like something was behind it. Sometimes it felt like something was standing beside it, waiting. Then one night, the dream changed. The door was slightly open. That was the first time our main character woke up sweating, heart racing, with the clear feeling that someone was standing near the bed. The room was empty. The door was closed. But the feeling didn't go away for hours. Soon after, physical things started happening. Objects slightly moved. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. A chair turned slightly. Kitchen cabinet left open. The TV turning onto static late at night. Classic haunted house signs, except this was real life. And living inside a real-life-based horror story feels very different when it's your own home. Sleep became difficult. Silence felt dangerous. Even daytime didn't feel fully safe anymore. The breaking point came when searching old property records online. Hidden inside an old forum discussion about the neighborhood was one short comment from years ago. Family left suddenly. Said the upstairs room shouldn't be opened. Said something started after they unlocked it. That comment had no replies, no explanation, no details. And that same night, around 2:17 a.m., a loud sound came from upstairs. Not like something falling, more like something hitting the locked door from inside. Once, then again, and then slow footsteps, starting to move across the upstairs floor, directly toward the staircase. The footsteps stopped right at the top of the staircase, not fading away, not running, just stopping. Like whoever, or whatever, was upstairs knew exactly where the stairs began, like it was standing there, waiting, listening, deciding. Our main character stood frozen in the living room below, staring at the dark staircase. Every logical part of the brain was screaming that this was impossible. Old houses make sounds, wood shifts, pipes move, but footsteps don't pause. Footsteps don't change direction, and footsteps definitely don't sound heavy, like someone walking slowly on purpose. That night sleep was impossible. Morning didn't bring comfort either. Sunlight only made the house look normal again, and that almost felt worse. Because if everything looked normal, then maybe the problem wasn't the house. Maybe it was the mind. That thought became its own kind of horror. Work performance started slipping. Messages from friends went unanswered. Calls from family were ignored. It was easier to stay quiet than explain something that didn't even make sense out loud. How do you tell someone you think something is living in your house, but you've never actually seen it? The first real complication came from a personal flaw: stubbornness. Leaving the house felt like losing, like admitting fear had won. Money was already invested. Pride was involved. And deep down, there was another emotion too: curiosity. Because fear and curiosity often live side by side. That curiosity led to digging deeper into the house's past. Old local archives, social media groups, random neighborhood posts. Most said nothing, but small fragments started forming a pattern. Multiple short-term residents, complaints about sleep problems, mentions of noises upstairs. One deleted post that someone had screenshotted: "Something is wrong with that storage room." Then came the subplot no one expected. An old electricity repair record showed repeated service calls to the same address years ago. Always for power fluctuations in the upstairs wiring. Always late at night. Always marked "no fault found." Trying to brush it off as coincidence worked. Until one evening, the lights in the house flickered 3 times in a row. Not randomly, slowly, like a signal. That same night, while sitting alone, another realization hit. The dreams were changing again. Now the hallway in the dream looked exactly like the real upstairs hallway, and the door at the end wasn't fully closed anymore. There was a gap wide enough to see darkness inside. Not empty darkness, thick darkness, like smoke that didn't move. And something else, a feeling, like someone inside the room knew they were being watched from the hallway. In real life, behavior started changing too. Short temper, jumping at small noises, forgetting simple things. Once, while making tea, the stove was turned on, but no memory of turning it on existed. That was when the first real moral dilemma appeared. Leave and risk never knowing what was real or not. Spend life wondering if fear created everything, or stay, and risk confirming something that might be impossible to live with afterward. The turning point toward that decision came unexpectedly. A neighbor, The same elderly man who once said the house was never empty approached quietly one afternoon. He didn't ask questions. He didn't explain history. He just said one sentence. "Did you hear it walking yet?" Before any answer could be given, he added something else, voice shaking slightly. "If you hear it come down the stairs, don't open your bedroom door." Then he walked away. That night, around the same time, 2:17 a.m., the sound came again. Not from the locked room, from the upstairs hallway. Slow footsteps, moving, reaching the staircase, and this time, they didn't stop. The footsteps started coming down the stairs, slow, heavy, deliberate. Each step creaked in a way that made it impossible to pretend it was just the house settling. It sounded like weight, like presence, like intention. Our main character stood in the bedroom doorway, frozen between two choices: close and lock the door, or watch. The elderly neighbor's warning repeated in the mind. If you hear it come down the stairs, don't open your bedroom door. But the door was already open, and now the hallway outside the bedroom felt different, colder, thicker, like the air itself had become heavier. The lights in the house flickered once, then stayed on, then dimmed slightly, not fully off, just low enough to stretch shadows across the walls. Step. Another creak from the staircase. Step. Closer now. Close enough to imagine exactly where it would be standing if something physical was there. Breathing became shallow. Ears strained for any extra sound. Fabric moving, skin brushing wall paint, anything human. Nothing. Just footsteps. Then silence. Not the normal silence of night. The kind of silence that feels like pressure against your ears. The kind that makes your own heartbeat sound too loud. Minutes passed, or maybe seconds. Time stopped making sense. Then came a new sound, a soft, dragging noise, like something slowly moving across the living room floor downstairs. Our main character wanted to shut the bedroom door. Every survival instinct screamed to do it, but another thought pushed back. If the door closed, whatever was in the house would be free to move without being watched. Fear mixed with that same dangerous curiosity. So instead of closing the door, one slow step moved forward into the hallway. The house smelled different, damp, old, like something long sealed had been opened somewhere. The staircase was visible from the hallway, empty, but the living room lights below were off now. They had been on before. Another moral battle started inside. Run outside into the street at 2 a.m. and risk looking insane. Or stay and face something unknown, but possibly real. Before any decision finished forming, the TV downstairs turned on. Static, loud, sudden, violent against the silence. The sound filled the entire house. Then, underneath the static, something else. A low, rhythmic sound. Not mechanical, not electronic. Breathing. Our main character stepped toward the staircase before even realizing it. Like being pulled, like gravity had shifted direction. Halfway down the stairs, the air felt freezing. Visible breath. Goosebumps across skin. The living room came into view slowly. The TV screen glowed white static. The couch, the table, the chairs. All normal, except one thing, the locked upstairs room key. It was lying on the living room table. It had never been brought downstairs. It had always been hanging on a nail near the upstairs hallway. Hands started shaking, because if the key was here, then someone had taken it down, or something had. And if the key was here, then the locked room upstairs wasn't locked anymore. The TV static suddenly cut to silence. Pitch black filled the living room as the power went out completely. In the darkness, directly behind, a whisper, so close it felt like lips near the ear. Not loud, not angry, just calm. You opened it, and somewhere upstairs, a door slowly creaked open. The whisper didn't fade. It lingered, not echoing through the room, but staying close, personal. Like whoever spoke didn't need to be loud because they were already too near. Our main character couldn't move, couldn't even turn around. Every muscle locked between fight, flight, and something worse. Recognition. Because the voice didn't sound completely unfamiliar. The power was still out. The house sat in total darkness, except for a faint gray glow leaking through the windows from streetlights outside. The TV screen was black now, silent, dead. But upstairs, the sound of the door, the locked storage room door, finished opening, slow wood scraping against old floor, then silence again, then footsteps, not the slow, heavy ones from before. These were lighter, barefoot, walking across the upstairs hallway. At the same time, another sound came from the living room. The front gate outside creaked open. Headlights flashed briefly through the window as a car stopped outside the house. Someone was here. Relief hit first, sharp and sudden. Maybe help had arrived. Maybe a neighbor had noticed something. Maybe this nightmare was finally about to be broken. Then the phone vibrated in the pocket. Battery 9%. Unknown number. The message preview appeared. Don't let them open the upstairs room again. 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 Before the mind could process it, another message came. You don't remember leaving last time. The air inside the house felt like it disappeared completely. At that exact moment, a key turned in the front door lock. Someone was entering, crossing the story into two moments happening at once, upstairs and downstairs. Upstairs, barefoot steps moving toward the staircase. Downstairs, front door slowly opening inward. The door creaked. Streetlights spilled into the entrance. And, standing there, was a woman our main character instantly recognized. The previous owner of the house. The one from the old property photo. The one who supposedly moved overseas years ago. She looked older now. Tired, pale. Eyes scanning the house like someone returning to a place they never wanted to see again. She stepped inside quickly and shut the door behind her. "Where's the key?" she asked, voice shaking. Before an answer could be given, the upstairs footsteps stopped, directly above them. The woman looked up slowly, and her face lost all color. "You opened it," she whispered. But this time, it wasn't accusation. It was fear. Then she said something that changed everything. "It doesn't haunt the house." Silence, heavy, crushing. She looked directly at our main character and said, "It follows the person who opens that room." Memories flickered. Sudden flashes that didn't feel like imagination. Standing in the same house months ago, police lights outside, paramedics, neighbors watching. And the same woman crying, saying, "You opened it. You shouldn't have opened it." The phone vibrated again. New message. If she's back, it means it chose you. Upstairs, barefoot footsteps started moving again. Faster this time, heading straight for the staircase, and the woman grabbed our main character's arm, voice breaking. "You have to leave, right now, because if it comes downstairs and sees you awake." She stopped mid-sentence, because from the staircase, a shadow began stretching slowly across the wall, moving downward, one step closer to becoming visible. The shadow stretched longer, down the staircase wall, across the railing, touching the floor at the bottom step. The woman's grip tightened around our main character's arm so hard it hurt. "Don't move," she whispered, barely breathing the words. The air felt frozen. Time slowed into fragments. Heartbeat, breath, the soft sound of something shifting weight on wood above. Then it stepped down, not fully visible, not human, not shapeless either, just wrong, like darkness trying to hold a body shape but never fully succeeding. Our main character's chest tightened as something inside finally understood. This wasn't just fear anymore. This was recognition. The dreams, the hallway, the door. The feeling of being watched. It had never been random. It had been preparation. Another step down. The woman suddenly pulled hard, dragging our main character toward the front door. "Run," she said, voice cracking. "If it sees you accept it, it won't ever let you go." Accept it. The word hit like lightning. Memories slammed back. Not blurry flashes this time. Clear, sharp, terrifying, standing upstairs months ago, holding the same key, opening the same locked room. Inside. Not furniture, not storage, just walls covered in scratches. Old, new, layered over each other. And in the center of the room, a mirror. And in that mirror, not just a reflection, something standing behind, waiting for someone to see it, waiting to be acknowledged. Back in the present, another step sounded on the staircase. Closer. Our main character made a decision, not to run outside, instead, turning, facing the staircase. The woman screamed, "No, don't look at it." But it was too late. The shape paused halfway down the stairs, like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Our main character spoke, voice shaking but loud enough to break the silence. "I know you're there." The house temperature dropped instantly. The lights flickered back on for a split second, just enough to show something impossible. The shadow wasn't separate. It was connected. Connected to our main character's own shadow, stretched unnaturally long behind them, merging with the thing on the stairs. The truth landed all at once. It didn't live in the room. The room was just a door. And opening it meant letting something attach itself to the part of you that lives in dark reflections, in mirrors, in shadows, in the spaces where light can't fully exist. Tears ran down the woman's face. "I tried to warn you last time," she whispered, "but you didn't remember." The thing on the stairs took one final step down and stopped, because our main character didn't run, didn't scream, just stood there, breathing, accepting, and slowly. The shadow on the stairs began pulling backward, like smoke being sucked into a crack. Up the staircase, into the hallway, into the open room upstairs. The house light stabilized. The temperature returned. Silence came back, heavy, but normal. The woman collapsed into a chair, shaking. "It's done," she said. "It leaves when you stop being afraid of it." Hours later, police reports would say nothing unusual happened. Power outage, faulty wiring, no signs of forced entry. By morning, the upstairs room looked empty. No mirror, no scratches, just bare walls. But weeks later, in a new apartment, miles away, our main character walked past a dark TV screen at night, and for just 1 second, the reflection blinked. A moment slower than they did. Morning sunlight didn't feel threatening anymore. For the first time in weeks, the house felt like just a house. Walls, windows, old wood. Nothing breathing inside the silence. Nothing waiting in the corners. The woman stayed until sunrise. Neither of them slept. They just sat in the living room, occasionally glancing toward the staircase, half expecting something to move again, but nothing did. Before leaving, she finally explained everything. Years ago, she had opened that same locked room. At first, nothing happened, just like this time. But slowly, over weeks, her life started changing. Nightmares, reflections moving strangely, the feeling of being watched. She thought she was losing her mind. Until one night she saw her own reflection, smiling, while she wasn't. She moved out immediately. But it didn't stop. It followed her for months. Through mirrors, glass, dark screens, shadows that felt too heavy to be normal. She only found relief when she stopped running, when she stopped feeding it fear, when she accepted that some darkness exists, but doesn't always need control. "I came back," she said quietly, "because when it gets passed on, the previous person sometimes feels it disappear. And last night, mine went silent." That answered the biggest question. It wasn't attached to places. It was attached to people who opened the door, physically or emotionally. Weeks later, our main character moved to a new apartment. Smaller, brighter, newer. Life slowly started feeling normal again. Work improved, sleep returned. Friends noticed the difference, but some things never fully left. Mirrors were still uncomfortable at night. Dark TV screens were avoided when possible, not out of panic anymore, out of respect. Because the biggest lesson wasn't that evil lives in shadows. It was that fear gives shadows shape. The subplot with the neighbors, the warnings, the strange history. It all connected to one truth. Everyone who experienced it had one thing in common. They tried to fight it, run from it, or deny it completely. But the ones who survived learned something harder: to face it, to acknowledge it, to not let it control who they became. Months passed. Life moved forward. And one night, while turning off the apartment lights, our main character paused in front of a hallway mirror. The reflection stared back normally. Tired, human, real. And for the first time, there was no second movement, no delayed blink. Just peace. Before walking away, one quiet sentence was whispered into the empty hallway. Darkness exists, but it doesn't own me. Reflection for the audience. Sometimes the scariest real-life horror isn't something chasing you. Sometimes it's something waiting for you to notice it. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop running from what scares you. Powerful call to action. If this story gave you chills, or made you think about the fears you carry, like the video. Subscribe for more real-life-based horror stories. And comment below. What would you have done? Opened the door, or walked away? Because sometimes, one choice changes everything.